I'm not going to touch anything.
You're not going to touch anything? Do you want to say hi to the camera, Judah?
Learn how to work. Spin it around and then make all the rainbow colours on.
But no, we don't like rainbow colours.
But I do.
Yeah, but we don't. This is just black and white.
Just joking.
Just joking. We don't like RGB rainbow colours. Oh! Welcome, my friends. In a moment, you're going to be seeing how to build this exact PC. How to configure all the hardware, from taking the things out from the boxes to all the way when it turns on. And this is going to be a two-part video, because first part we're going to be building the hardware and making that all ready, and the second part is after we've done the hardware, which you don't see a lot in the YouTube world. How to configure the software, how to install Windows, how to do all the driver stuff. So there's like two parts in there. Before we're gonna actually start the build, there's some very important things that you need to do, or I need to mention to you in order for this to go well. First of all, make sure you have seen the video how to update the BIOS on this motherboard without the CPU, because this CPU is not compatible with the motherboard out of the box, so you need to update that. Secondly, if you're coming back to this video when deciding to do the build or want to find a certain part, feel free to check out the YouTube chapters below and you'll see a certain part if you're looking to CPU, RAM or whatever installation. There's another two parts of this video, so this is a series of videos about this PC, and in the other two parts we're talking about how good is this PC, what it is for, why did we choose all these parts, what are some of the alternatives if you want to go for them, or how good are the benchmarks. So if you want to know all that and the review of this build basically, then feel free to check out the other videos. And last but not least, if you want to pick out any of these parts, what I'm talking about, or all the things that you need for the building, all the tools, all the things that you might need, then I'm going to leave everything in the description below. So if you want to find any of these parts or the exact parts, so you may want to make sure that, you know what, I'm building the same PC or these parts are compatible, then everything will be listed in the description below, so feel free to check that out. And lastly, the whole reason for doing such a long video is so that anyone who watches this video thinks, do you know what, I'd like to build that PC because I could do some use, or I need a better video editing, photo editing, graphics design PC, and I want to build this, and I want to be able to provide a video that anyone can watch and anyone can just build it on their kitchen worktop and then later on start working on this and then have no issues. So hopefully this is exactly what it's gonna do, and you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So let's start with the build. Artlist is an affordable way to license all the music you need for your projects, whether it's personal, commercial, TV, podcasts, YouTube, Facebook. You get the point. You name it, it's covered. No more worrying if your music licensing covers your project. One worldwide license that covers it all. Oh, and that's not all. Artlist also includes tons of sound effects, and the music is updated daily, so you never run out of choice. If you're wondering, how did I get all these nice shots of B-roll? Well, it's called Artgrid, a site similar to Artlist but for video. Artgrid can provide all the stock footage you need, from HD to 8K, profile formats, log or graded, to assure that it can be personalized and fitted to your current project. And Artgrid works the same as Artlist, one worldwide license that covers it all. So it's simple, choose the license that you need and that fits your budget, and enjoy the unlimited downloads without any extra cost added. Get 2 extra months for free when you join Artgrid or Artlist through the links provided. Check out Artlist and Artgrid in the video description below. We're gonna start with our power supply. Now this is not a necessary step, but I like to do that every single time I'm doing a build, because it just adds another little extra thing or extra little protection to do. So take out the power cable from the power supply box and the actual power supply. The rest of the things we can leave in the case for now, because we're gonna need them later. So this basically what we're doing now is making ourselves earth on the floor, because sometimes a static electricity shock can damage the motherboard or computer components but it is very rare. So basically plug it into the mains, plug this power supply in over there. We can actually get rid of this sticker and then press the power on over there. Boom. So now when you basically touch the power supply, that should earth yourselves or get rid of any static electricity that might have been built up in you. You can get a static strap as well if you want, like a wrist strap, and then attach it to this power supply. I'm going to leave link for that in the description below if you want that, but it is not really necessary unless you know that your environment is very full of static electricity, things like that. Next of all, we're going to bring out our motherboard, our SSDs, both of them, our RAM, that's what we need, as well as our processor. Let's open up the motherboard box, and there's a few things we need from here. First of all, we need the motherboard, so I'm going to put that on the side over here. Underneath, quick installation guide, which is very helpful. If you are doubting any part of this video, you can always refer to the instructions. I am often going back to the manuals because they sometimes change things. So this is very easy thing to do. Refer back to the manual. There's the main big manual here as well. Okay, let's pick up this as well. That is very nice. The G connector. We're gonna leave the Wi-Fi antenna in there. There is a Wi-Fi antenna in there as well, but we're gonna leave it in there because we only need it in the very last moment. There's some SATA cables over here. We're gonna leave everything in there but the G connector. That is what we need in there as well. So let's take the manuals out because we might need them later. If you are maybe doing this build a little bit later, then there is another version of this motherboard out there available, Vision DP, which already includes the USB-C case port in the motherboard, so you don't need the extension that we're going to get to in later on this video. So if you have that, you might want to go with that motherboard instead. I'm going to leave this in the description as well, so if you want to check that out. It's just recently been launched and it's not in stock at the moment, but it will be, might be when you're watching this video. So definitely check out that Vision DP, which is a newer version of this motherboard, and there's few tweaks in there as well. But at the moment we are going to use this motherboard. If you want to know more about this, I've got a little video on my channel about this motherboard, why this is good and why you should be using this, or why you might want to choose this, but that's it. So what do we do first? I always like to install the CPU first, just so nothing will go in those sockets over there. So that will protect that, and then we'll do that first. So you've got your Ryzen 9 processor over here. Make sure that your BIOS is updated on the motherboard. Obviously, again, if you haven't seen that video on my channel, go check it out, because you definitely need to do that before you do that, because this processor won't work out of the box with this motherboard. You just need to do an update. It's very easy. Follow the instructions and you can do it. When you pop this open, make sure you hold it onto, because it kind of pops open. And when you're using the CPU for the first time, it might just jump out and you might, bend some pins, so you don't want to do that. Make sure that when you open this box, it's not going to fly open, and then the CPU won't like fly up or drop on the floor, anything like that. When installing the CPU, it is very simple, really. There is a little dot on the CPU on one of the corners. On the bottom left corner there is a little arrow over there, if you can see that. Now that arrow needs to follow exactly the same on here. This arrow needs to match the socket over here. On the same socket over here, on the bottom left corner, there is this arrow. Now, if you have the motherboard like towards you, then it's kind of like upper left corner, but if you look at the text over here and think that this is the top of the socket, then it's on the bottom over here. You can't really go wrong. There's a little arrow on this side, so this and that needs to line up. So we're gonna open this socket, boom, so that the stick is up. Take hold of the processor over here. Try not to touch the IHS of the processor. Basically, that's what this top metal part where the text and everything is called, because you might have little finger grease and things like that that might cause temperature issues later, but not a massive thing. So you take hold of the processor from the side and then drop it in there, and then it just slides in. You can do a little wiggle, make sure that it is in there. The corner over there is lining up on there, on this bottom part over there. And then all you do is push this down now, and boom, your processor is installed. Next off, we want to install the SSDs for our motherboard. So these are where our operating system is on, and we are installing two, because one of them is for the operating system and then the other one is for the project drive. So there's two over here. The top one over here is PCIe 4.0, whereas this one is PCIe 3.0, and then we have hard SSDs according to the same speeds. I'm gonna pick up POSI 1 now. This is this screw over here on the top over here. We're just gonna open this screw and then take off this top screw. Now this little thing over here, what we're holding, is actually a heatsink, and then this sticks to your SSD and tries to keep your SSD cool. So that's pretty cool. So don't lose that little screw over here. We're gonna put this on the side over here. If you have one of those iFixit cases, then on the bottom of the case there's nice little compartments over here where you can put screws and sort them a little bit. And then on the top, if you just slide straightly on top, it actually just magnetically goes there, and you're not gonna lose your screws underneath, which is pretty cool. We have already our standoff for our SSD drive already installed, and then the screw is in there. Now, if you're using any other SSD than we have, and it's maybe smaller or longer, then you might need to remove this. But this SSD we have is a pretty standard length over here. So I'll just open it over here. It's in there. I'm gonna pick it up. And basically the installation is pretty simple. I'll just leave it over there. You need to undo this screw over here. It's a very tiny screw. It's good if you have a magnetic screwdriver, because that helps. And then what you do with this SSD is basically you pop it on the side over there and then push it in. Push it this way. Once it's in, it's actually gonna keep angling up and it's completely fine. What you wanna do now is push it down and then put the screw back in. That tension and how it's angling up, it's completely fine. If your SSD is different size, like I mentioned before, standoff might need to come off or move around. But now our SSD has been installed. Now, if you have a PCIe 4.0 drive, like I have over here, links in the description. This one I would recommend is one of the best bang for buck PCIe 4.0 drives, very fast read and write speeds. You're gonna wanna put that on the top, not the other one, because you can't mix up the sockets. One of these is a bit slower speeds than the other one. So this one is slower, the bottom one. So the faster SSD put always on the top, and this is going to be our operating drive. Now we're going to put the heatsink back on the top. So what you do is you peel this off, leave it over there, and then you slide it on the side over here. So boom, slides in, and then you just push down, make sure it lines up with that over there. Take off the screw that was there, and then we're going to screw this heatsink back in there, and boom, that's it. First SSD has been installed, and we're going to do exactly the same with the second one. Take this heatsink off. I'm going to take the other SSD. This is another very good bang for buck SSD for projects or things like that. What you pay for it and the speed you're gonna get, highly recommended. It's much cheaper than Samsung drives and right up there with the speeds, or sometimes even faster than the Samsung drives. So definitely worth checking this out. This is by Team Group. It's called Cardia Zero Z340. There's also a PCIe 4.0 version of this available, which I have over here actually. So check this out. PCIe 4.0 and 3.0. That 4 over here means it's PCIe 4.0. As you can see, Gen 4, this is Gen 3. So there's no point of using the Gen 4 drive because this doesn't support the speed. So we're gonna undo this screw over here for the standoff, put the SSD down there, push it in, and then you screw that back down. Once the second SSD has been plugged in over there, we're gonna do the same. Peel this off over there because that is like little thermal pad which helps with the heat to go inside this heatsink and just spread the heat away from the SSD, makes it run a bit cooler. So we're going to do that, plug it in there, there we go, use the screw, and then we're going to plug it in there. Now you could install the second one later on as well. When you already have this system running and you want to do that, you can do that later. But in our case, we're just going to do that straight away. Next off, we're going to use the RAM. So it depends which sticks you're going to go for. If you have 4 or 2 sticks, there is a certain way how you need to install the RAM sticks in these slots. So the RAM slots are over here, these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over here. Open it up on the side so we can get them out. So there we go. The usual golden rule, if you have just 2 sticks of RAM, is that you start installing them the very furthest away slot from the processor. So this one and then the other one, every other one. So this one and then this one. So like the first and the third. And if you don't know that, sometimes the motherboard has like a cheat guide on the side over here as well, which we have over here. You can see that it labels which one should you install first, B2 and A2. So there's dual channel over here. These two are one channel and these two are two channels. So we want to put one on each channel. You can't really mix and match them. It's best if you put them in here and there to get the best speed and stability of the RAM. So you want to open these RAM slots over here by just pushing this black sticks away and then pick up one RAM slot. Then make sure that this little gap in here, or little tooth gap, goes inside there in the right place. As you can see, it can only go right way. So we're going to slot it this way. As you can see, this lines up with that way. And then now you're going to push it in there and then you press down quite hard until you hear both sides click in. That means that your RAM has been installed. Now, time to time, let's touch our power supply to get the static off if we had any. So now the second, I'm going to slot it in, push it both sides quite hard down. Now our RAM has been installed. Next up, we have our AIO, or the CPU cooler, that's going to be installed over there. Now you can do this later on inside the case or do it now. I prefer to do it now because installing it, especially if you're doing it for the first time or if you're a beginner and you're not very confident, it's easier to install the CPU cooler when it's laid down flat like this instead of facing up and doing it horizontally or doing it vertically inside the case, because sometimes it just spins and moves around there. It's not as easy. So what we need to do is open this box up, and inside this box there's a few things. There's 3 fans, the pump and the radiator with liquid inside, and then some fixings and instructions and all that. One of the first things we're going to do is, there's instructions over here for the AIO. If you don't know how to install it, we're gonna need those little screws over here because we need to prepare something on this pump over here, or the head of this one. Very nice matte white over here, so it's beautiful. But there is another little pouch inside it was inside this box that says AMD on. And on the AMD notch, you can see that there is these 2 little things. Look at that. So we're gonna need to install these underneath over there like that. So if you take your pump like that, take out the cover over here, and we're gonna have to repaste this over here, but this is just another little tip. Sometimes these AIOs already come with thermal paste installed, like this over here. But I can see very easily that there's already little bits and dust inside the thermal paste, which is just going to hinder the thermal performance, or it might not even completely lap up over there. So we're going to need to clean that. So what you want to do is take a bit of toilet roll. So I don't want any dust or any little bits inside the thermal paste. So we're just going to take this off. Just rub it clean until you see there is nothing left on your tissue paper. So them 2 brackets over there, they go very simply like one way. So they're going to be installed like that or like that. Depends how you want the pump to be angled or which way you want it to go. So I'm going to get the motherboard up here so you kind of see on the side over here. I want these pipes to be coming out from the top of the motherboard, which means that my bracket, I want this to be installed over there like that, which means that I need to install it on the tube sides over here. If you want your tubes to come from the sides or that side, then you install them on the sides, but I want them to come up from the top. Use those 4 little screws that were there, and then which it goes on the AIO in the way that the screw will go into this opening over there. There's like a little space made for the screw. Don't put it the other way. It's pretty obvious which way it should go, because those screw holes, there's like a little opening already made so the screw head can go inside the metal and be flush with the metal. So that's which way it's gonna go. So it's gonna go that way, and then we're gonna use the other side of the brackets. Install it there just like that. Now, just another little tip is, if you want those brackets to either match your motherboard or you know, your AIO, you can paint them white or black with a sprayed paint before you attach these. But my tip would be is to sand this metal a little bit beforehand. Use a little sandpaper and then just make like little grits or little grip so that the paint can grip to something, and then screw these in. So you don't have silver. If you don't like that, you can do that. I did that on the previous build. If you want to see how I build another one of those, exactly the same cooler, then feel free to check out this video. I'll link it up there so you can see how to paint these. So once this is installed, then the AIO is basically ready to be installed. Now, on this side where the motherboard is, let's move this on the side. We still do need those 4 screws, so don't put them anywhere. Inside the motherboard, we're going to take these 4 screws and we're going to remove the existing mounting option for the cooler. We don't want these or need these, so we're going to remove that and remove this. Now, if you lift the motherboard, this bracket will come loose from the other side of the motherboard, as you can see. Boom. And then now inside the AMD bracket over there, remember, there is 4 little thumb screws like these. There is another bracket inside that says TR4. Don't do that. That is for thread rippers. If you want to use this for thread ripper builds, I would recommend this for the thread ripper anyway. But for AM4, we're going to need these. Now, these screws have 2 separate threads on one side and then on the other side, so you can't really go wrong, but just try which one fits one way or the other way. The bigger thread goes into the motherboard, so use the bigger thread and then it threads into the motherboard. If it goes in easy, you know you're doing the right thing. If it goes in hard, the wrong thread is going in the wrong place. So the one that has the bigger thread on, it goes on the motherboard. Do that on all of these 4 brackets like this. So just tighten them up with your finger, and there we go. And now basically we need to install our AIO. It's gonna go in there like that. Now we don't have any thermal paste over there, so we can just check which holes they're gonna into, and you can see it's gonna go into these holes over there. It's gonna be installed like that. Now definitely consider if you want to spray paint them black first, because there's quite a bit of gray or silver on this. If that bothers you, you can do that and paint them silver or black first. We want to install the thermal paste now. If you don't have thermal paste, I recommend either this Noctua thermal paste or thermal Grizzly thermal paste. These are good thermal paste. I'm going to leave this in the description below. It's not too expensive, and you have a lot of this. There's smaller ones available as well if you don't need that much, but I'm doing a few builds, so I have a bigger tube. So how much to put in? Don't worry about putting like too much, but be reasonable. Basically, we want a little pea size one over there, because too little is worse than too much. I know this thermal paste does not conduct electricity, which means that even if it falls on the motherboard, it doesn't do anything. It's all right. It all can be cleaned up, but that is fine. So now make sure you have your 4 thumb screws in handy that we had before. Remember those 4? So we're gonna leave that in there, and then make sure that your tubes go up, because in my case, I think this is the best way of installing it, because you'll have the cleanest cable management. Put it gently into the holes. And once it's in the holes, I'm gonna do like a little wiggle and push it down. Once you have done the wiggle and pushed it down, don't make sure that you're not peeling it off from there anymore, because we want the thermal paste to have perfect contact with our AIO. So I'm gonna do the diagonals first, one over there, and then 1 screw on this side. I'm just gonna screw it down like that, and then we're gonna add another screw on this side, and then another screw goes over there. Just start tightening them all down until they're all tightened down as much as you can. You can use a screwdriver as well, but if you do, you might want to use Posi 3, because that might fit better, but my Posi 2 fits in there perfectly at the moment as well. So I'm just giving another little tightening with the screwdriver, making sure that they're all tightened down all the way over there. Okay, perfect. There. Okay. There's kind of a point where it doesn't go anymore and you don't need to tighten it anymore. That's it. You know, like you've reached the end. So now this has been tightened down and our AIO has been installed over there as well. And then we can now put this inside the case. But before we're gonna put it in the case, we're gonna prepare the fans on this radiator. So I recommend you moving this around a little bit now. You can do this radiator fans part before as well and install the fans. It could be better as well, but doesn't matter. Either way, you can do it. It's like playing with Lego. Okay, take out the fans. So now the only thing is to know which way this is going to be mounted inside our case. Now I know that this is going to go on the top like this, and I want the air to come from inside the case and be pushed up and then out from the top. I know that it's going to go inside the case like this. So I want our tubes to go in front of the case. So if you're gonna do exact installation like I have, then this little port over here, either the fill port or whatever this is called. So this port over here is gonna be in front of the case over there. And then this side will be the back of the case. So the glass will be on this side and back will be on this side. So I want the cables for each of these fans to come out from that side, because this is the back side of this case, not from the front. So we're gonna install them like this, and then like that. This is how it's going to be installed. There is a few options over here if you don't want to see those fans and put them on the other side of the radiator, so it's going to pull it through and then push it out. Now the only problem with that is if one of those fans, for example, broke, it's kind of hard to see if that fan is working. So that's why I recommend you doing it with this way. So if you look inside the case, you can see if all the fans are working. So that's working fine, you know. So we're going to install them that way, not this way, because the air comes from the front and then is pushed out from the back. So this is obviously the back, because you know, you see the sticker over here. This is the back of the fan and this is the front of the fan. If you don't know which way the air actually flows, you can see on this side of the fan there is little arrows as well that point which way the air moves and which way the fan works. So the fan's gonna spin this way and then blow air through that way. But if you just follow my guide, you can just do it this way as well. So now we need some fan screws that came inside the box. There's, they look like that. They're just black screws, loads of them. We need the longer ones over here, all 12 of them. And then you're just gonna use these long screws and then pop them through there. It's gonna go through the fan inside the radiator over there. So that's gonna attach them in there. So there we go. I recommend you do diagonals of the fans first, so you can make sure that the screw goes in and actually all the holes line up. Don't do one all the way, because that won't work. You're just making sure that they all start biting in there and the thread goes in the right place. Now inside this bag where there's some cables over there, there is one cable that we're gonna use, because that is gonna connect all of these 3 fans into one. So basically when one gets adjusted, all 3 will be adjusted. So on one side it looks like that, and then on the other side you have all 3 like this. We do need this little bag of screws that came where the long fan screws are, because these will be screwed in on the other side to the case. So now let's prepare the case. Okay, that big boy. Let's move this motherboard. Okay, there we go. So on the case, we want to remove all the panels, and this is how you do it. On the back, there's like thumb screws. There's little yellow around them. You can actually take them off if you want, like from the yellow. Once the glass, for example, comes out, once the thumb screws are loose, you push the glass out. There's little arrows as well. Once it's out, you pull the glass this way, and then the glass comes out. Then we want to also take off our top panel. From the top, you just pull this part up, and the top comes off. Then there's little dust filter on the top. I'm gonna take that one off as well. There is another back cover over there. So you do the thumb screws on that side, and then it comes loose exactly the same as our front glass panel. Take it off. I'm gonna take off our front panel. There we go. And the dust filter from the front. I'll take that off as well. And we are pretty much done. Now, the only thing what we want to do now is we need to put the motherboard over here. I'm gonna pull this on this side because there's a few things we can actually take off. So if you take this off, then this door opens and you can actually remove that as well. Pull that panel up like that. With this case, you're gonna get a lot of metal. So we're gonna take this one off and then that one off. We can actually access some things in the back over here as well. So there is some things inside the case that you might want to consider or get as well. So this panel you can replace with the front panel, which we might actually do, so keep that panel handy. Okay, you've got little some cables over here. Behind the cables there is these trays, so if you push these in you can pull the tray out, and then inside there is a box that contains some screws that we need for the motherboard and other things. So now the case is much lighter to work with. Inside this case, take out the motherboard screws. Wow, Corsair really went all out with this case. Now it's pretty obvious which ones they are, but just in case if you don't know which ones are the motherboard screws, you can always take the screw, and then there is these little standoffs inside the case. There is already the right standoffs installed, as I can see. So one on the bottom corner, but if you go with a different motherboard, just make sure that the standoffs are in the right place. And how you can do that is check where the screw holes are on the motherboard. So let's see if it fits the standoffs. Yes, the right screws. So there's only one screws that can fit the motherboard, so we're going to put these on the side because we're going to use them in a moment. But the standoffs on this case, it's best to check whether these are the right standoffs. If you go with any other motherboard, for example, these might be slightly in a different place, or the holes might be in a different place. So you want to make sure that all of these are going to go in the same place. So on this motherboard there is 9 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you think you can't see the 9th one. It's underneath this little bit over here. So we're gonna just, if you push that in from this side and then pull up, then this comes on, and then underneath there is another one. It's gonna leave that little bit off for now on the motherboard, put it on the side, and I can see that there's one line of screws that goes on this side, then it moves a little bit on here and then on here. And as you can see, in here, they are already in the right place. Little nubbin is gonna go inside this hole over here, and then that's gonna hold it in place while the rest of it is gonna be moved. So what you wanna do now is take the motherboard and leave the AIO on the floor over here, and then push, make sure that the AIO has somewhere to sit and stand, like this motherboard box here works really great. And then now I'm gonna push this motherboard in, and then make sure that all the screws start to line up. Now make sure that this little fan screw for the back fan, move it out of the way, that your IO shield on the back will move into place. So let's have a look, and there we go. Look, it's holding onto the nubbin, and there is a little bit of a tension on these tubes over here. So I'll just move the AIO inside there. Now there isn't any. Our motherboard is nicely sitting inside there. We're gonna take some screws. Another trick over here is that sometimes the screw holes on the motherboard are not lining up perfectly. So if they aren't, I recommend you not screwing the first screws in all the way, but just leave a little bit loose so it holds the motherboard not from like falling off, but it's not tightening it enough. So if you need to move it slightly, you can still do that. So now I've got 3 screws in, and that's enough to kind of hold the motherboard in without it falling away. I want to install the AIO. So that's gonna go in there like so. And you'll see very clearly where the screw holes are going to go. So I'm gonna take back our screws. Now this box over here is where this is the fan screw box. Do you remember that we screwed the fans in that came with the long screws, and then there were shorter screws? So I'm gonna take one of these and make sure that your AIO lines up on the top over there, and then just put one screw in so that it actually holds from the top. I'll show you in a moment what I'm doing. I've got the AIO just strapped on with 2 screws, so it's not going to go anywhere. What I want to do is I want to screw some more motherboard screws in, all of them in, so that when I flip it on the bottom I can show you, but then the motherboard's not falling out anywhere. So put the rest of the motherboard screws in. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, all motherboard screws are in. I'm gonna flip this case on the side so you can see what I'm doing on the top. These are the motherboard screws. Don't mix the motherboard screws with the AIO screws because they're slightly different. So now this is the top of the AIO, and I have put one screw over there and then one screw over there. So basically now you can see there's loads of screw holes. You can just use the screws that came with your AIO and then screw it all nicely in. There's some washers that came inside the case. There's the cardboard box that was inside the case. There's 8 washers, and then I'm going to use 8 screws to screw this in as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, even though there is 12 holes, but you don't need 2 screws literally right next to each other. So if you can, just replace all those screws with a washer inside there as well, because then you just have a bit of a better grip. Now this is not really necessary, but you know what? We want to be perfectionists and do this build as well as we can. So there we go. Use all the washers for all of these AIO screws on the top as well. Back up on this way now. So AIO is installed, it goes that way, then goes on the top over there. Now, like I said, these screws can be mounted on the other side of the AIO as well, if you just like the clean radiator look from the bottom. Now there's 3 fan cables that were on the other side. If you remember, they were now on the other side. On the other side, this fan's cable that is literally over there is very close to this panel that's over here. And if you don't put the fan in this groove on the other side, because this other side has the same groove over there here for this fan, then it kind of doesn't really want to push in, or it doesn't really line up with the screw holes. So put the fan header that comes from there inside this groove, and then it comes somewhere over there, and then you can push it through from the other side. Oh, push it the other way so you can see now. This cable over here is from the first fan, here the second middle fan. On this side there is another fan cable. Let me see if I can get it through. There we go. So now this is the third fan cable there as well. They're all over here. Now I'm just gonna put one of these little cable ties or zip ties over here. It's not permanent one, so I know these cables are all the same cables basically. Okay, I'm gonna put these screws in the case because these were the AIO screws. I'm gonna put them with the AIO so I know which ones are from where. These are all motherboard things. So, sorry, for the case thing, so we're gonna need them. So what we're gonna do next is install our graphics card, and then we're gonna start doing the cables. So the graphics card installation, we're gonna pull this through on this side again, and then pull out your graphics card. And then, as you can see, it's gonna go there, and we're just checking which slots we're gonna need to take out. So the second and third on the back of the case over here, they need to come out. So use a screwdriver. This needs to come off, that needs to come off. Now, before we're gonna go further, because you need those 2 screws, keep them because your graphics card's gonna plug into. Make sure you pull out all the like little films on the motherboard, because otherwise this is going to go all underneath the graphics card and you're not going to see that. There we go. So once these 2 slots are out, so the second and the third over here, make sure you open the graphics card port on the motherboard over here. Just push that down, and then now on your motherboard take off the PCIe slot protector, this little plastic piece, and all you're going to do now is line it up, and when you see it's going to go in the slot, just push it in until you see that clip over there just comes boom back up. And now once you have done that, now we just need to screw the graphics card back in over here. Can you already see how beautiful this looks? This looks absolutely fantastic. So now there is 2 cables that come from the AIO. We're going to want to push them through on the other side as well. So if you look over here, I want this to go through from here next to the RAM over there and then push up all the way over there. There is actually one of these that needs to go to the pump header over there. There is 2 headers that come out from the AIO, and then one of them has like these little wings on the side. This is for the RGB, and we're going to push that from the top over there. But then the other one is just like a 3-pin header, and that is for the pump. And usually this is like on the top over here next to CPU, fan and pump over there. But in this case, on the motherboard instructions, it is this System Fan 5 pump over there, which is on this side of the motherboard. Now you want to plug it in there, It only goes in one way, but then once you have it plugged in, just try to do a nice cable management by pushing the cable right down there underneath. This is not like ideal because it doesn't look the nicest. You know, if it was a longer cable, we could extend it and make it come out from the side and go over there. But, you know, in this case, that's where we're gonna have to put it. And then this cable, we're gonna push through from the top over there to the other side. Okay, and then just tidy the cable up nicely as well. Just make sure it looks, you know, nice, because everything about this build is beautiful. So we want to make sure that that is happening there as well. Okay, that goes on the bottom over there. In fact, I'm going to change something. I'm still going to plug this fan in to the top over there, which is the CPU optional. Okay, so the pump fan that we put on the system port 5 over there, we're going to change that on the top over there to CPU optional. And then the rest of the cable, we're going to just push through from the other side. Yep, there we go. So now there is a few more things we need to do. Take out this card over here. And then this is something that is going to help us with the USB-C port on the top over there. And I have already painted this back plate black so that this wouldn't be silver, but this is going to go on the bottom, on the very bottom slot over there. So I'm going to take the bottom slot out as well. Now, if you have the other motherboard, which is the Vision DP motherboard, then you don't need this, but in our case we do need it. And this card is going to pop in to the very bottom over there. So we're going to slide it right up there and then push it in. That's going to give us the USB-C header. We're going to have to put our USB-C front header actually on the higher slot, because the USB-C cable won't reach or bend down that much to get it over there. I'll just double check. Yeah, that's it. It won't bend down that much. So we're gonna take out this slot over here, which is the fifth slot. Yep. Take this out. Perfecto. Now what we want to do is put in some extension cables, PSU extension cables, because it's just going to be easier later when we do it that way. First of all, we have, what do we have over here? This is that one over here. I like to comb these cables because they look so smart and slick. There's two ways how you can do these combs. If you use these extensions, you don't need to use these extensions, by the way. Your normal power supply is fine as well if you want to use those cables, but in my case, this just looks a bit better when we're using this. So I'm going to comb it this way so that the actual straight going through is on the other side, on the back. In the front, you don't have like a cable going across, so it's going to look like that from the front, but on the back, that's how it goes across. We comb that like that. Then we're going to put few in. Now, if you don't know which cable goes which, because the CPU and the graphics card cables look very similar, so which one is for the CPU and which one is for the graphics card for these PCU extensions, then one of those PCU extensions has a cable that is split into 4+4, like this one over here. You'll see you can split it into 4+4, and then two of them have 6+2, and then the 6+2 cables are for the graphics card, and then the 4+4 cable is for the CPU. I'm just combing this a little bit over here, and I've kind of changed my mind while I'm doing this because I want to only do the 24-pin PSU. I'm gonna put that one in there, and then I'm gonna use this one over there. I'm not gonna plug in the graphics card because it's easier to the other cables underneath and then do the graphics card last. Okay, here's the 24-pin ATX cable is in. Trying to make it like as smooth as possible so that it looks like minimalistic like the rest of the build over here. Just push it through from the back over there on the other side for now, and then we're gonna do the rest in a moment. Then I'm gonna take the other PSU extension over here, this one, and I'm gonna put it in there. And on this one, I'm not gonna have any combs because I just need to get this through on there. Just push it through on the side so I can put this little bit over there back, if you remember. that little bit. So I'm just gonna remove that, make sure that's in there. This is gonna go in there because then that will make it even more clearer and smoother. But then we can pull these cables on the other side straight. So that's that. I'm gonna leave these cables for now until we go back to this side. I'm gonna go on to this side now. Now there is few things going on this side of the case. Okay, there is heck of a lot of cables now going on over here. So let's start to make sense what's coming on over here. So these over here are the 3 cables that came from our AIO over there. Then this cable over here is from the AIO as well, but this is the RGB cable from the AIO. So then these 3 cables that came from the AIO, remember we had this one splitter that has 1 cable and then 3 on the other side. So I'm gonna plug in them over here just like that. Just take them 3, plug them into this 3-to-1 so that all the fan cables that came from the CPU over there, they're gonna come over here, and then we're gonna later plug them and then cable manage them all onto there just like that. I'm gonna take these straps out now because I'm probably gonna need them all. I just thought before we're gonna actually do the cable management, I'm gonna put the power supply in as well, so that will be easier. So before we're gonna do that, we're gonna need a few ports for this power supply over here. So take out your power supply case again, and then in there is a little pouch. There's nice little white zip ties over there. Take them out as well, we might use them. And there is a few cables we're gonna need from here. Now we need the one that has 24 pins on this side, so use that one. Then we're going to need this one that says CPU on it. So take the one that says CPU on. We're gonna need that one as well. We're gonna need one that has SATA ports over here, like this one. So the SATA cable, this over here that has a long cable, and then on the other side 6 pins, one of those. Then there is 2 that says PCIe over there. So we need 2 of them. Take 2 of these out, and then that should be it for now. So let's start to plug them in. So also our power supply is gonna go in the case this way, the fan up. So you're gonna pull the air from within the case, push it down, and then it comes out from the bottom this way. Now you could flip it the other way as well, but I don't wanna see a Corsair sticker through this mesh over here, over there. I think it looks a little bit naff, so I'm gonna put it this way. Now let's start attaching things to this power supply. I'm gonna start with the 24 pin over here. So you've got 24 pin ATX. So there is these 2 cables that go over here. So one of them plugs in on the top over here. It says 24 pin ATX, so you can't really go wrong. This, and then this. Then there is CPU cable over here. On this side it says CPU, and on this side it doesn't say anything. The one that doesn't say anything goes onto the power supply, and then the one that says CPU will go and connect into the extension cable we put for the CPU over there. You can't actually reverse plug them in, as you can see. It just won't plug in because there's 2 pins over here. You know something is wrong. So the one that has 1 pin, we're gonna plug in, and then there is 2 PCIe cables. We're gonna plug the PCIe cables that goes for the graphics card. We're gonna plug these in over here. So where it says peripheral SATA, you know, these 4 pin and 4 pins. So these will go in through there. That is the PCU cable. I know on this side it splits actually, but we're still gonna use one of these cables for the graphics card. Not you put 2 of these ports into one, because it's just not wise that way, because it's past the certifications, sorry, how much one cable can put power through, because I think one of those cables is 150 watts or something like that, but our graphics card is 300 watts if I'm not completely mistaken. So that's what we want to do. So the 2 graphics card ports are gonna go just underneath in these slots over there, or you could put it over there, but I just like to leave these for CPU, and then these for PCIe. So these are the graphics cards, and then now we're gonna plug in this one SATA cable over there as well. That is going to go on the top next to the graphics card. So let's plug that one in there. I'm gonna pull the case down again. The power supply goes in from the side. We're gonna have to undo this hard drive bay over here because our power supply is not gonna go in unless we actually undo that one. So undo that one, and then we can just slot it out like that. We're gonna put it back in a different place just to leave more space for our hard drives and things, but we just want this to put there. So remember, fan up and then push it in there. On this side we have, it's gonna look like that. You can see the holes of the power supply are gonna line up. So we're gonna take these screws that are inside with these zip ties, screw it in, one screw from the top, and then it's wise not to screw it in all the way. Make sure you've got at least another screw. Okay, this one over there. So we're gonna leave this hard drive bay out because we know that actually, you know, the user for this PC doesn't need that. Let's start plugging in cables. Let's do big ones first and then little ones. Let's start from the very big one and then move our way down. So we're gonna start with our 24 pin over here. So we're gonna open these up because we're gonna need our 24 pin to connect up with this one over here. So that PSU extension cable that went into the motherboard. Now we want to connect these two together. And now when they are connected together, it will be nice to zip this down. Okay, very good. And then the rest of the cable, we're just gonna push down there out of the way. Next off, we have the CPU cable on this side. So we're gonna find the one that has a CPU. So these two are PCIe. Where is our CPU cable? There we go. There it is. So that's gonna lock into this one. They're gonna connect up. So push these in. Look, boom. Connects in very easily. That's very good. It's good that we use these extensions because now we have this nice cable management that we can do on the bottom over here. So that's good. I'm just gonna put this in temporarily over there. These two graphics cards cables we're gonna leave out for a moment. There is this SATA cable. Now with this SATA cable, I'm going to push one of these to the front from this side over there because this is going to need to plug in to our USB-C slot card that we put underneath there. So that's going to go through over there. So let's move it on this side, plug it in straight away so it kind of makes sense for you. So there it is. And then let's plug it in straight away as well. So it's going to go and plug in on the side of this card. Let me see if you can see it. Look at this. When have you seen a white SATA cable? That is very, very nice. So let's plug it back on this side now. We're gonna be flipping this a lot of times. So that's in there now. See how that's gone very nicely on the side over here. We have another SATA port over here, which we are going to use for, let's see which SATA cable we have. There is one over here. So this is going to, this SATA cable over here that comes with the bunch that was already in the case is actually going with this fan hub, or basically just fan splitter. So you want to power this, and then you're going to power the other side of this, which is this cable over here. That's going to go inside system fan on the other side, but we're going to get to that in a moment. So I'm going to use that SATA cable and I'm going to plug it into that another SATA one that we had over here. You see, like that. Oh, perfect. Look how nicely this fits down there. So the rest of this cable, we're just going to push down there for now. Then on this side, what do we have over here? So there's some more cables that come from the motherboard. So there is this one cable that we want to plug in to the card that we installed for the USB-C. So it's a cable like that. It has like a little H or I, like a typewriter I shape cable. It's very different from anything else. So we want to put that cable through to over here, through that side, because that's going to connect to that card that we installed on the bottom. So I'm going to actually put it underneath this big 24 pin. We're going to make our way through over there, push it through on the other side. And then that is going to plug into that card on the side over there. It can only go one way. That's perfect. If you already have the TP version of this motherboard, then you might want to plug it in somewhere on this side, or there is one of those on that side. We're slowly getting there. We're slowly getting there. Make sure that the USB-C cable that we just plugged in actually plugs in nicely, because if it's on an angle or something like that, it doesn't really plug in. So this is the best way of doing it. Just make sure it is completely plugged in. You'll know when it's plugged in, basically. But this cable is the easiest to come out of socket, because there's no like actual like a hook or something that holds it in. No locking mechanism for that. So let's have a look what other cables we have over here. There is another HD audio, a cable that says HD audio. Sorry, it just says audio. So that is gonna have to come through to the other side over here as well, in that corner. We're just gonna push this through over there and then leave it in there for now. So these two are gonna go together over there. Remember, we had the motherboard G connector over there. This one that came with the motherboard. So now it's helpful if we undo that one, because then we can actually plug these in. Now on this side, it just says like power LED plus minus, power, speaker, HDD, reset, CI, power LED, things like that. So we're just gonna plug these little cables in from that side. Then we're just gonna plug them into the right place. On this G connector, we have PW, so that is power. And we want to plug this in over there, like just like that. So it clips in over there. It's very nicely over there. And then the plus on this side goes to the connector that I just plugged in to the arrow. Now it doesn't actually matter, because it doesn't matter which way it is, it's still gonna work, but just the right things need to be plugged in to the right place. So now it's in there, it doesn't kind of come out, it's all connected. Next off, what do we have over here? We have power LED plus and minus. Okay, these are next to us over here, so you can see which one is plus and which one is minus. So just connect them up accordingly. Power LED goes on the top on that side, and then power LED minus goes in like that. So you just connect them up over here and then push them in. So that holds these two in. So later on, when you plug this into the motherboard, it's so much easier to do it that way. Then what do we have over here? This is reset switch SW, reset W. So we're going to turn this on the other side. And as you can see, reset plus minus, it's going to go like that. The arrow goes to plus. So reset switch has gone in as well. So now all of these are together. Let's leave these like that. And then this one we're going to put through like on the bottom over there to the front. So that goes over there like that. Turn this on the other side so we can plug these few cables in. So now this that we put all the little cables in, that little bit goes onto that port over there that's next to this orange SATA cable over here. So that one, just make sure that the top goes to the top. And there's a few pins missing from the top. There's like number 9 or 6 over there. So that goes on the top, and then the other side goes down. Then now all your switch cables have been plugged in. Now that is very, very nice and easy and tidy way of doing the cables. We're gonna pull them on the other side. Now we had that cable that we put in from the front on this side that says audio in. That goes on the very bottom left corner of the motherboard over there. So look, there is one pin missing on this cable. That one pin goes on the bottom corner. Just have a look at this connection on the motherboard. There is one pin missing over there, so you can only plug it in one way. So that goes down. Okay, these two are through over there. Let's flip it off to the other side again. Make sure that you can push the excess cable from the front over here to all the way to the other side. There we go, that goes on the other side. So there's this last cable that's left on this side, as you can see over here, guys. That last cable just pushed through on the very bottom front over here as well. So that cable is going to go in the port on the bottom over there that says USB 3.2, goes underneath there. You'll see it on this picture as well. So that goes over there. So when you plug this one in, be very careful, just look where the notch is and then slide it in, but be very careful to not bend any pins when you push this one in, because there's a lot of pins and I've bent the pins before while pushing this in. So just be careful when you do that. Other than that, it's all right. It just looks like that. Okay, so now that is plugged in over there. And then the rest of it should just come out from this side. And that is all good. Now we do have a few last cables to do. Let's do the GPU first. So do you remember we had one of those cables that's gonna go over there?
My Martha, Albo, got a new hamster.
Did they?
Yeah.
Should we go see the new hamster then?
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
You know why? You know why this will bring the new hamster?
No.
Because the other one just has escaped.
The other one escaped.
Yeah. So there, I don't know. I'm not gonna touch anything.
You're not gonna touch anything. Do you want to say hi to the camera, Judah?
No.
What's this?
The thing spins around.
The thing that spins around?
Yeah.
What's Daddy doing?
This is how to work. Spin around and then make all the rainbow colors on.
On the rainbow colors in there?
Yeah.
But no, we don't like rainbow colors.
But I do.
Yeah, but we don't. This is just black and white.
Just joking.
Just joking. Yeah, just joking. We don't like RGB rainbow colors. Oh! So we've got our GPU cables now that we're going to put in. These are the extension cables. So there's one in that is just for 6 pins, and where's the other one? There we go. There's our other one. Now let's just put a few combs on them, and then we can plug them in. So how many combs should you put in? That's entirely up to you. How many do you want to go put in? Just have a look. How would you like the cables to go if you're going to use these cable extensions, by the way? Okay, that should be enough. I'm going to plug this in to our GPU, just making sure both of these are okay. Perfect. Then we're going to put them through the bottom hole over there. That's the closest to this. Let's put them both down there. So put one comb down there as well, just over here, so that they would start to go together. Might put another one on the top over here. So this will hold these cables together, and they're kind of going together. That looks pretty good on the side over there. And then on the other side, so we'll leave these cables on this side. So as you can see on this side, we're going to take one of those cables that came from our power supply, you know, that splits into 2, and then I'm going to click it in so that there's 4 pin, and then we're going to connect the first bit, not the extension bit, but just the first bit. We're going to connect to one of these that comes from the bottom that we just plugged into the graphics card. There we go. And then just going to hide the rest of it down there. And then the other one, we're just going to push the rest of the excess cable down there. And then the same thing over here. Make sure you plug it in not to the last kind of chain, but the first one. Boom. And then now this, we're just gonna hide underneath. So now this is our PWM cable, and we're gonna just take it out from this hole on here. I'm gonna push it through this way so we can pop it through on the other side over here, just underneath this cable on the other side. So you'll see on this side. So just from here, right? Remember, our fan just comes in from the side, and then we're going to plug it into this system port on the side over there. Okay, it's quite simple. Perfecto. And then the rest of it comes down here. That is nice and perfectly clean. Okay, last few little cables. Now remember the 3 fans over there that we connected to this one continuous cable? Now this is the other side of the cable, and 3 of them obviously are attached to on this side, but I'm gonna connect that one into the CPU fan port that is on that side. So I'm gonna push those cables through the other side, and then trying to get this cable through to the bottom over there. Okay, there we go. And then now just plug that one into CPU fan. Okay, perfecto. All of these fans now are connected to the CPU fan. Now, another thing we're gonna do is inside this box of the AIO, a little plastic bag of the AIO, there's like a little controller over there with SATA cable. We're gonna take one of those cables that says Gigabyte and ASRock and ASUS and MSI on that side. We're gonna connect this to the AIO because the AIO had two cables. One of them, remember, from the pump goes to the pump header, and then the other one was free. On this cable over here, it says ASRock, ASUS and MSI on it, but actually we're gonna use it for Gigabyte because that's the right port for this. The other side that says Gigabyte on it, we don't have that port on the motherboard. So we're just gonna use this one. It says 5 volts, D and G and D. So ground, 5 volts, and then D. So we're gonna use that one, and that's gonna go on the top over there. So let me show you where this is gonna go. So on the top over there, as you can see on this motherboard picture as well, in there we're gonna wanna plug it in D. Now make sure that your 5 volt is equal to that one over there that says V, right? There's 2 ports, 5 volts and then D. As you can see, there's V and D, and then G, which is ground. So make sure that your ground goes to ground and 5 volts goes to 5 volt. Double check that, because if you get it the wrong way, it can fry your LEDs. So now the rest of it, we wanna push through from to the other side, okay? And then the rest of the cable as well. So that came out quite easily actually. So this rat's nest we're gonna sort out in a moment, but that cable that we just pulled out, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to put it underneath from here. This is the other side of the AIO cable that was over here. We're just gonna plug them both in together like that. Boom. So now that is all tied together nicely over there. Now I'm just gonna do some cable management over here. Want to make sure that all these cables are gonna look very nice and so on. But before we're gonna do that, I'm gonna actually do another little trick. So basically, because I do have a few extra fans, we're gonna install 2 more extra fans from the front. And they're gonna go in there and plug it into the Corsair fan, a little hub or splitter on the front over there, just so that we have a bit more intake, which means we're gonna create positive pressure inside the case, which means if there's any dust or something, that pushes it outside the case instead of sucking in dust inside to the case. So it would be nice to use like the same fans as these over there, but I'm going to use these NZXT fans that I have laying around. So I'm just gonna plug these in from the front and then have a bit more extra airflow in there. If you're wondering where to get the fan screws from, then inside the motherboard case there was screws for the fans. Okay. When you install the fans, just make sure that where the cable comes out, it comes out from that side, so we can just route the cables much nicer like that. Okay, we have 2 more fans over here installed. Now, at first I thought I'm gonna plug these 2 fans inside the same, you know, over there, but now I've changed my mind because I'm gonna put them through over here from there, just underneath the 24 pin over there, and then on this side I'm going to plug them in over there, system fan 2 and system fan 5. I'm just gonna see how can I cable manage this. Okay, the cable management is pretty good, and then that is now basically done. Now we need to just plug in the computer, make sure everything is actually lined up and plugged in on this side. Let's see, our 24 pin is okay, our graphics card is okay, everything else in there, all these little ones plugged in over there. We have these plugged in, and then yeah, that is it. One last thing to do is pull off this from the AIO, and then now we are done. Now I'm gonna reconfigure this setup. I'm gonna plug this in, and then I'm gonna show you exactly what's gonna happen on the screen and then what we're gonna do next. But basically the hardware configuration is done, and now we just need to do the software side.